They show up when it matters most, even if they vanish in between. This is one of the clearest and most paradoxical signs that someone with an avoidant attachment style may be secretly in love with you. Avoidants are not known for consistent presence or overt declarations of affection. In fact, their behavior can often be cold, aloof, or confusing. But when an avoidant person feels something deeply for someone, their actions start to shift in quiet but significant ways. You might not hear from them for days or even weeks. They may seem emotionally unavailable, distracted, or reluctant to engage in intimate conversations. But then, something happens in your life, a crisis, a birthday, a moment when you need someone by your side, and they show up. Not just with words, but with action. They make time, they reach out, they appear. That moment of presence is not random. It's not a fluke. It's love, quietly asserting itself against their own fear. Avoidants often grew up in environments where emotional expression was unsafe, overwhelming, or unrewarded. So they developed a coping mechanism of distance. Closeness can feel suffocating, vulnerability can feel dangerous. But love, true emotional connection, has a way of pulling them out of hiding, not every day, not in the way we might expect, but in the way they are capable of expressing it. When they care, they begin to override their fear, even if just for a moment, because something in them knows your presence matters. Showing up when it counts is their version of saying, "You're important to me." They might not articulate it. They might even seem emotionally flat when they do it. But if you look beyond the surface, there's a powerful emotional undercurrent. They're breaking their own patterns for you. They're entering a space they usually avoid because love is motivating them to act against their instinct. That's not small, it's huge. This kind of behavior is often missed or misread. We might interpret their absences as lack of care and their brief appearances as inconsistencies. But if you zoom out, you'll see a different pattern. Every time something meaningful happens, they show up. That's not random. That's emotional investment in disguise. Their way of loving may not look like constant texting, physical closeness, or verbal affection. It may look like them remembering an important date, calling you when you're grieving, offering help when you're overwhelmed, or simply being present when most people fade away. These are not just friendly gestures. They are expressions of a heart that struggles to open, but is doing so for you. It takes incredible courage for an avoidant to break their own emotional habits. It's not just about love, it's about trust. When they begin showing up for you, what they're really saying is, "I trust you enough to face the part of myself I usually run from." They're leaning into discomfort, leaning into closeness, because your presence makes the fear worth it. That is one of the deepest signs of secret love. So if someone disappears often but always finds their way back to you during meaningful moments, don't dismiss it. Don't just focus on the silence. Look at the signal buried in the noise. Their love may be quiet, scattered, and hesitant, but it's real. And when they show up when it counts, they're not just being kind. They're telling you, in the only way they know how, that you matter more than their fear. They let down their guard gradually, but intentionally. This is one of the most powerful indicators that someone with an avoidant personality is secretly falling in love. Avoidants typically protect themselves by maintaining emotional distance, guarding their inner world with careful precision. They aren't quick to share personal details, childhood wounds, or deep vulnerabilities. But when love begins to take root, their walls don't come crashing down all at once. They start to crack, slowly and deliberately, allowing you to see glimpses of who they really are beneath armor. Letting down their guard doesn't mean grand romantic gestures or long confessions. For an avoidant, vulnerability often shows up in small, easily overlooked moments. They reveal a personal struggle, admit to a past failure, or tell you something they've never shared with anyone. These acts may seem casual or unimportant on the surface, but they are deeply significant. Every revelation, no matter how minor, is a calculated risk. Each time they let you in even a little, they are choosing closeness over comfort. That choice speaks volumes. One of the clearest signs that love is in the air is when an avoidant begins to open up without being pushed. They volunteer information, initiate deeper conversations, or reveal subtle emotional needs. It's their way of testing the waters, trying to see if you'll accept them, flaws and all. And when you respond with compassion and acceptance, it encourages them to open a little more. This isn't manipulation or performance. It's a slow, intentional movement toward connection. What makes this process so meaningful is that it requires internal bravery. For avoidants, emotional exposure is terrifying. They often equate vulnerability with weakness or danger. But love creates a contradiction within them. They want to be close, but they fear what might happen if they are. So if they begin to let down their guard with you, it means their desire for connection is starting to outweigh their fear of rejection. That shift is rare and precious. These moments might not look dramatic. It might be them talking about a family issue, asking for your opinion on something personal, or showing emotion when they usually keep it buried. They may not frame it as a big deal, but inside it is. They're not just sharing information, they're handing you a fragile part of themselves. And they don't do that with just anyone. If they're doing it with you, it means something. It's also important to recognize the pace of this vulnerability. Avoidants rarely dive headfirst into emotional intimacy. Instead, they move slowly, watching carefully to see how you respond. One open moment might be followed by a retreat. That's not a lack of love. It's part of their process. What matters is the direction, not the speed. If they keep coming back, keep opening up, even after pulling away, it shows they're serious about letting you in. When an avoidant starts letting down their guard, they're inviting you into a space they've spent a lifetime protecting. That invitation may come quietly, without fanfare, but it's full of meaning. They're not just trusting you, they're allowing themselves to hope. Hope that maybe this connection is safe. Hope that you won't abandon them when you see the full picture. Hope that love doesn't always have to hurt. If you notice these signs, be gentle with them. Understand that every step toward you is a step away from their comfort zone. Celebrate the small openings, respect the hesitation, and know that when they let their guard down, they're not just falling in love, they're choosing you over fear. And that is one of the most sincere expressions of love there is. They allow you to influence them even subtly. This is one of the strongest yet most overlooked signs that someone with an avoidant attachment style may be secretly in love. Avoidant individuals pride themselves on independence, control, and emotional distance. Their self-reliance is a shield against vulnerability. But when they begin to genuinely care, that shield starts to soften. And it often shows in how they begin to allow someone else, a specific someone, to shape their thoughts, decisions, or behavior in subtle yet meaningful ways. When an avoidant starts to adjust their routine to accommodate your needs, your preferences, or your presence, it's not accidental. It's not just being polite. For them, allowing another person into their structured, private world is a huge act of trust. Whether it's changing plans to spend time with you, considering your perspective in a disagreement, or modifying how they communicate because they know it makes you feel safer or more loved. These small shifts reveal something much deeper. They're not doing it for everyone, they're doing it for you. Influence in this context doesn't mean control. It means emotional weight. Your opinions matter. Your feelings matter. Your presence matters, and they are willing to consider that, even if it challenges their usual habits or comfort zones. An avoidant in love doesn't surrender autonomy, but they do start to prioritize connection over routine. They begin to think, how will this affect them? Or what would they think? Thoughts that never used to occur to them before. This change can be seen in the smallest details. Maybe they used to be rigid with time, but now they're more flexible if it means they get to see you. Maybe they used to avoid phone calls, but they'll pick up for you. Maybe they once dismissed emotional conversations, but now they try, awkwardly, imperfectly, to stay present and engaged. These aren't just behaviors, they're signals that you've become important enough for them to stretch, shift, and grow. What's remarkable about this transformation is that it's voluntary. You didn't force it, you didn't demand it. They chose it, and that choice is a direct contradiction to their usual defenses. When they allow you to influence them, they are acknowledging your emotional significance in their life. They're saying, without saying it, you matter enough for me to evolve. That's not something avoidants do casually. That's love speaking through behavior. At the heart of this is vulnerability. To be influenced is to be open, to allow another person's view, emotion, or presence to shape your reality. For avoidants, that's deeply uncomfortable. They fear being controlled or engulfed. But when love begins to take hold, that fear starts to lose its grip. And they find themselves, almost in surprise, doing things they once avoided, saying things they once held back, and feeling things they once denied, all because of you. So pay close attention to the subtle shifts. Are they more attentive? Are they listening more? Are they changing small habits just to make things easier for you? Are they taking your needs seriously, even if they don't fully understand them yet? Those aren't just gestures of kindness. Those are signs that you've become a reference point in their inner world. You're no longer just someone they interact with. You're someone who matters deeply enough to influence them. In love, influence is not about domination. It's about resonance. And when an avoidant begins to resonate with your presence, your voice, and your values, it's a quiet but profound declaration of love. Not loud, not theatrical, but sincere, steady, and real. They get uncharacteristically jealous or protective. This reaction is one of the clearest emotional tells that someone with an avoidant attachment style is secretly in love. Normally, avoidants pride themselves on their ability to remain detached, rational, and unaffected. They don't like admitting when something or someone affects them emotionally. They often dismiss feelings that make them feel exposed. But love changes that equation in unexpected ways, especially when it begins to stir a deep emotional investment in you. Jealousy isn't always loud or explosive. In avoidance, it tends to manifest subtly through body language, sudden withdrawal, unexpected sarcasm, or a shift in mood when someone else gets too close to you. They might act colder or more aloof than usual, but beneath that icy layer is a storm of emotions they don't know how to process. Why do they suddenly feel bothered that you laughed a little too much at someone else's joke? Why do they feel uncomfortable when another person compliments you? These aren't thoughts they want to have, but they show up because they care more than they are willing to admit. This unspoken jealousy is usually accompanied by a quiet form of protectiveness. They may downplay it or even disguise it as indifference, but you'll notice them taking small actions to ensure your well-being. They'll check in on you when you're not feeling well, offer practical help when you're overwhelmed, or subtly place themselves between you and a perceived threat, whether emotional or physical. Protectiveness is their way of expressing love without saying the words. It's the instinct to keep you safe, even if they don't feel safe showing how much they care. These emotional reactions are not manipulative or possessive. They're indicators that the avoidant is emotionally invested. Love brings out a side of them that contradicts their usual need for space and control. Their jealousy isn't about ownership. It's about fear of losing someone who has come to matter deeply. And because they're not used to processing these kinds of emotions, it often leaks out in confusing or mixed signals. This contradiction often leaves people puzzled. How can someone who acts like they don't care also seem bothered when you're close to someone else? How can someone who avoids intimacy still feel the need to protect you? The answer lies in the emotional conflict avoidants experience when they are in love. On one hand, they want to maintain their emotional independence. On the other hand, their heart begins to attach, and that attachment triggers instinctive responses like jealousy and protectiveness, even if they don't fully understand them. It's also important to recognize that this form of jealousy isn't always tied to romantic rivals. It can show up when a friend, family member, or even a hobby starts taking more of your attention. Suddenly they're quieter, more distant, or moodier, and they might not even know why. But if you look closely, it's because they feel displaced. When an avoidant starts to feel like they're not as central to your world, the emotions they usually keep buried start to rise to the surface. Protectiveness, on the other hand, is often expressed in thoughtful actions. They'll remember what makes you uncomfortable and try to shield you from it. They'll step in when they sense you're being mistreated. They may not say, "I love you," but they'll act in ways that say, "You matter to me, and I don't want to see you hurt." This behavior often appears without invitation, and it speaks volumes about their inner emotional landscape. When you see these signs, it's not a contradiction, it's clarity. Love is slipping past their defenses, revealing itself in the only way they know how, not with words, but with emotional reactions they can't quite hide. Jealousy and protectiveness aren't flaws in this context. They're signs of a guarded heart trying, sometimes awkwardly, to stay close to someone it's afraid of losing. They circle back after pulling away because you're different. This is one of the most telling behaviors of someone with an avoidant attachment style who is secretly in love. Avoidants often deal with intense internal conflict. They crave connection but fear it at the same time. As a result, they tend to retreat when things become emotionally overwhelming. But when love is present, something shifts. Even after they pull away, they find themselves drawn back to you. That return is not just about comfort. It's a powerful sign that you've touched them in a way others haven't. Pulling away is almost a reflex for avoidance. When emotional intimacy begins to deepen, they can feel exposed and vulnerable. Their instinct tells them to retreat to safety, to regain control over their feelings by creating distance. This withdrawal can be sudden and confusing. One day, they're engaged and attentive. The next, they're cold or distant. But what sets your relationship apart is that they don't stay gone. They come back. This cycle of withdrawal and return is deeply significant. If they were indifferent, they would disappear completely. If it were just convenience or infatuation, they wouldn't bother circling back after space. But they do. They check in. They reinitiate contact. They find reasons to reconnect, even if awkwardly, even if it's just a message or a casual conversation. That gravitational pull is fueled by something deeper, emotional attachment. Each time they return, they're fighting a battle between fear and connection. Love for them is not a smooth journey. It's filled with doubt, anxiety, and resistance. But their repeated return to you reveals that their feelings are stronger than their fear. They may not be able to express it in words, but their actions speak the truth. You are the exception to their pattern. You are the one they can't walk away from, no matter how hard they try. This behavior often leads to confusion if you don't understand the pattern. You might wonder why they keep pulling away just to come back again. You might feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster. But this push-pull dynamic isn't random. It's the visible struggle of someone who is slowly learning to stay, despite every instinct telling them to run. When they return, they're not just resuming contact, they're expressing a silent hope that you'll still be there, that maybe this time they'll get it right. Their return is also a sign of growth. Each time they circle back, they've had time to reflect, time to miss you, time to realize that what they feel is not ordinary. That realization pushes them to confront parts of themselves they'd rather avoid. Choosing to come back, to re-engage, even in a small way, is their way of saying, "You matter more than my fear." That decision, however quiet, is a powerful declaration of love. Pay attention to how they come back. It might not be a grand apology or an emotional outpouring. It might be a meme, a question, a random check-in. But that small outreach is loaded with unspoken emotion. They're testing the waters again. They're hoping the door is still open. And they're trying imperfectly, clumsily, to stay connected to the one person who makes them want to try at all. This returning behavior is one of the rarest and most raw indicators of emotional depth in an avoidant. It's not just about attachment, it's about recognition. They see something in you that's worth facing their fear for. You've awakened a part of them that wants closeness, even if they're terrified of it. And every time they circle back, it's not weakness, it's courage. The courage to come back to love, even when everything inside them says to run.